Hello my darling, I'm Chanel and today I am doing the end of year tarot tag. So we are just in mid-December, but close enough, close enough. So I am just going to get straight into it. I will link down below where I saw this particular tag from. There's quite a few questions in this one and I will try to rapid fire them. Let's get this going. The first question is your most disappointing read of the year. I did actually buy this physically. I think I got rid of it immediately because I was just so angry at what I got. And that is In the Garden of Echo. The cover was stunning. The premise sounded fantastic. It sounded very Book of Genesis, Adam and Eve kind of thing. But what it was monster erotic horror. And I didn't enjoy it. I think that was the first time I'd ever read anything like that. I have since read a lot of fucked up stuff, but that was my first foray into the freaky deaky horror, sex, monster genre. I'm actually going to bring up my review to see what I said about it. My God, that cover was gorgeous, but yes, I've already gotten rid of it. So it was by H.S. Wolf. What I said was, what in the monster plant insect smut snuff hell was this? The verb for the book is so misleading. That was my biggest gripe. Okay, it was just, I did not get what I thought I was going to get. If I had known what it was, I wouldn't have read it. This book is basically a monster couple fucking each other's innumerable holes whilst eating people like they are juice boxes. Are they a messed up version of Adam and Eve? Probably, but don't expect a lot of clarity in this. So yeah, that was definitely my most disappointing read. Obviously, I gave it 1 star. It's just not what I thought I was getting. And it was when I was just beginning to buy books. So this was the first year that I bought a lot of books. I've normally been a 100% library only kind of girl, but this year, yeah, I gave it a go and yeah, that was very upsetting. Next question, Underdog Book of the Year. So for me, this was Happy Death Club, Essays on Death, Grief and Bereavement Across Cultures by Naomi Westerman. So this was a short nonfic read about various funereal practices, grief practices and rituals and death rites. And it was fascinating. It was a conglomeration of all these little tidbits sort of revolving around the theme of death. I thought it was really fascinating and it touched on a lot of topics. And it was a book that I went into completely blind. I just saw it at a bookstore, bought it, and it was a 5-star read for me. I think it's only got 115 ratings on Goodreads, so it's definitely one of the lesser known Underdog books. Next, we have a book that was overhyped. For me, this is Heartless Hunter or The Crimson Moth. This went massive on Book Talk and it is a romantasy that involves period blood and sexual assault as romance. That's my take on it. That's how I felt it was portrayed. It was interesting in all the other parts about it, the fantasy aspects, but the romance to me was so ick and non-consensual that I just hated it. And like the period blood thing would be one thing if she's just using her own supply, but she would use other ladies' supplies. And I was like, and she has to paint it onto her skin. And I was like, yeah, look, I could understand if it was a kink between you and your lover, your lady lover, and you're coating yourself in her elixir of life, but just random other people's old period blood. I was like, the smells.
Just think of the smell. You haven't thought of the smell, you bitch!
So, I just didn't get it. And something happened at the end with a character that I liked that made me riot. It made me riot and pissed off beyond measure. Like I was raging, and that's why I hated it and thought it was overhyped. The next question is your favorite book couple of the year, and that is The Murderous Mermaid and Plague Doctor From the Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. It's a horror novel and they're both monsters, so it's not a typical saccharine sweet romance, but I ate it up, just their dynamic and the fact that the characters stayed true to their nature whilst still loving this other creature in the way that they show love. I thought it was wonderful. It was fantastic and I would love to get a copy of that, but I hate all the Australian covers, which are the blue version, where I much prefer the red and black version. And like I said, I really don't like to use Amazon unless I absolutely have to. So I'm just like holding out hope that I'll randomly come across the black and red version. But yeah, they were my favorite couple. The next question was a favorite character for you, and for me that would be Minna from the Doors of Sleep series. She is just so fucking badass and cool, and she's once again a creature, so she's not human, but the things that she can do and just the way that she views the world and her actions and her behavior and her character growth, I loved everything about her. She was just a cool fucking chick, and I wish that the author had wrote a book from her POV, because I would like to go on adventures with just Minna, not the other dude. He was a bit of a doofus. But Minna, amazing. Just think of like, who is she like? She's not really like anyone. I guess you could see some Poison Ivy vibes there, maybe some space character vibes like Gamora, but she's her own beast. The next question is a book that surprised you, and that would be The Miraculous Journey of Edward Talane by Kate DiCamillo, because this is a picture book. I only read it because it was one of my best friend's favorite books, and I was reading books from her bookshelf. And this, I was not expected to be eviscerated, to have my heart put through a goddamn blender. Seriously, when I first started reading it, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, it's a kid's book. Oh my God, yeah, no, I would not recommend this to children. It is not for young kids. There are so many heavy adult themes in here, and just, it's like the reality of life that not everyone gets a happy ending, and not everyone has the same circumstances and is given the same breaks and chances at a happy life. And yeah, there's this one character in here named Bryce, and he's a ghost now. I am haunted by Bryce. I have collected a literary ghost. I can't let him go. His story, it still makes my heart bleed. And maybe I need to do a therapeutic thing where I just write a fictional story about Bryce and give him a happy ending so I can lay his ghost to rest, because yeah, I am too young to be haunted by ghosts yet. So that was an absolutely surprising book. That was a 5-star read for me. Next, we have a new author I discovered this year, and that is Cassandra Khaw from the previous book, The Salt Grows Heavy. So I read a few more of her things and liked them also. So I'm just slowly making my way through her backlist. She has a new book coming that I have pre-ordered thanks to Tom. It is a fancy sprayed edges edition, and I am so excited to see what this new author that I have discovered and loved is bringing out. So hopefully she continues to delight and surprise me. And that, yeah, new favorite author of this year, Cassandra Khaw. Happiest read of the year. I have this physical copy, but I've got Sylvie on my lap, so I'm not going to get up. This was It's You, Love Poems by Cats. I think Tom recommended this to me as well. And that was it was just a poetry book written in a cat's perspective, and cats are assholes. So it made me laugh, and there's beautiful photographs of kitties in there. So yeah, it made me smile the whole time I was reading it. I know a lot of people might think it was lame, but I'm a cat lady, and it, you know, resonated with me in that way. The most frustrating book I read this year was Futuristic Violence and Fancy Suits, because this had so much potential to be something I really loved. So it's about a girl who ends up inheriting her estranged father's billion-dollar empire, but it turns out he's a bit of a sort of mastermind. Whether evil or good, that's up to the reader to decide. And she ends up with a hit out on her because everyone wants what's in her dead daddy's vault. And this was frustrating because there were parts of it that I loved, like certain humor aspects, like the world it was set in and the characters, but then the way that they behaved, and there was some sexism stuff in there. But the main character was just an idiot. She just made the dumbest fucking decisions because she knows better. She's not going to be told what to do. And I hate that in a book, because then obviously she saw the effects of her dumb choices, and it was just one after the other. She didn't learn, she didn't grow. And so I just couldn't stand her. So that it was frustrating in that way, just reading it and being like, you dumb bitch, you dumb bitch. Next question is best film adaptation of the year, and hands down Poor Things. So I saw the movie first, I read the book second. The book just was hard for my brain to understand, and there were some things in there that I didn't like that they had taken out of the movie. It's the movie itself. There's some questionable things. It's basically, I'm sure I can say it without spoiling it because it's been out for ages. They put the brain of a child, an infant, into the body of a grown woman. So you can imagine the morality issues surrounding that, but the movie was just so gorgeous. I loved how they shot it, the cinematography, the costuming, the actors, the soundtrack, just everything about it was amazing for such controversial material that it was obviously based upon. Whereas with the book, I didn't have all of the extra stuff that the movie had, and the movie took the material from the book and made it into a much more easy to follow narrative than it was in the book. So hands down, movie over book. The longest book I read this year was June at 883 pages. I didn't actually read this one. I decided to listen to the audio instead. And that was actually a really good experience. I very, 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 very rarely would pick an audio over a book, but that was the way it worked out for me. I just couldn't get a copy of the book from my library, but the audio was just sitting there. So I went with the audio, and I think it made it easier for me to understand than if I was just reading the words on the pages, because there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of politics in there and world building. It's a dense sci-fi, but it did make the experience of consuming it a lot more pleasurable. And I think too, the fact that I had seen the movie beforehand helped so much with my comprehension and allowed me to get into it a lot faster. So I would probably recommend seeing the movie first and then reading the book, so that you already know who the Bene Gesserit are. You know what I mean? You already know who Muad'Dib is. So I think it helped a lot with that. Shortest book I read this year was so fucking short. It was 3 pages, and it's The Egg. But it's just, it works because it's a massive twist book. And it's just, yeah, it's like dropping an egg and the egg smashes, and the egg is your brain. Your brain just goes, what? At the end. I enjoyed it. I think it's a fantastic, super fast read if you just want a quick fix of a story. The Egg, 3 pages. Favorite cover of the year. I also own a copy of this thanks to Tom, but cat priority. This is This Fatal Kiss. I absolutely love this book. So I read it as an arc from NetGalley first, and like I said, 5-star read. It's a fantasy with a throuple, so it's polyamorous. You've got a Rizalka who is almost like a former human turned demon who drowns men, and a monster hunter, and then a friend, and it's how their lives intertwine. I love Slavic folklore retellings. They just do something for me, and this was no exception. But the cover on this is what caught my eye on NetGalley. It might sound superficial, but with NetGalley books, I am choosing based on the covers because they're arcs. No one else has talked about it. Almost no one has reviewed it. So when I breeze through, I pick on the covers, and this cover has stuck with me. I just love the style of it. So that was my favorite cover. A book I haven't stopped thinking about, A Short Stay in Hell. Yeah, this one stuck with me. This was just a random recommendation from Goodreads. I was just scrolling through books I'd read before, and it was, oh, you might like this. And I was pleasantly surprised because it's unexpected horror. Like, you hear, oh, a man gets sent to hell, and the hell is a library, and all he has to do to be able to go to heaven is find the book that has his life story in there. Except this is like the Library of Babel multiplied by 1 trillion. Every book that could be written. A book with just the letter A. It's just inconceivable as to how many books are in this hellish library. But obviously other things happen in there as well. Like, just the way that he made it horror was well done and not what you'd expect. And you'd be like, and then by the end of it, you're like, yes, that is absolutely hell. That is hell and terrifying, and I don't want that to happen to me. And if you don't want it to happen to you, then I suggest you follow Zoroastrianism. I need to read the word to be able to remember it, but that one, because that's the true religion, supposedly. Then we've got the cringiest book I read this year, and that is The Games Gods Play. I cringed so fucking hard. This is it's not Persephone, what am I talking about? It's Hades and another bitch retelling. And I struggled. If you watch, I will link the video there. If you want to see how cringed out I was while reading it, it's all captured in that reading vlog. So this is another book that a lot of people found incredibly popular, and I was just like, no, no thank you. An unpopular book you loved. So for me, this was Vault of Souls by Josephine Angelini. I'm just going to look to see how many people have read it on Goodreads, because I'm pretty sure it had some of the fewest. Yep, 22 ratings. I originally read this as an arc, but it has been released. When did it get released? October this year. So yeah, it's 22 people have read it. I really enjoyed this. I think if you want a more fantastical version of Game of Thrones with widows and saints, I won't tell you what they are, then you'd enjoy it. It's brutal, it's hard to stomach, it's definitely a darker fantasy. But the magic system and the world building were fantastic. The villains are vile. There's no romance in this one, but there's hints of romance to come. Look, I think the biggest thing of this was, though, there were 8 POVs, which it's a lot. It's a lot. But the story and the world building and the characters, whatever, it made up for it for me. That being said, if I wasn't reading it for NetGalley, I might have DNF'd it because I just could have been like, oh, I can't be bothered getting into all these POVs. But it was worth it. This was a 4.75 book for me. I think they do need to change the cover. I think the cover is not selling the book at all, or its contents well. So maybe with the cover redesign, they could get a lot more readers. Next is, what were the highest and lowest rated books I read this year on Goodreads? So the highest rated, I have a copy right now because once again, because it's a part of Reading Kate's collection part 2, but Kat, I should have just kicked her off, but anyway, I'll put a picture up. This is Best Wishes. So this is just a fan book of Schitt's Creek with behind the scenes and fun fan facts and little tidbits and photographs. And it was just really well done for a fan book. And this was a joy to read for me. And it's got a rating of 4.72 on Goodreads. The book that had the lowest was this Mediterranean cookbook. It's been rated 2 because only one person has rated it. I read it, I thought it was fine. I don't rate cookbooks because I feel like unless I cooked 75% of the recipes in there, I don't feel like I can rate a cookbook, you know? So yeah, unfortunately, the one person that rated this rated it a 2, so that's the lowest rating. Next, we have fave quotes of the year. I don't keep track of quotes from books, so I can't help you there. Then we've got book with the most unique concept. So for me, this is Little Scratch. This was formatted in a very interesting way. It was a stream of consciousness book, but it was done in a way where you would have the real world current time happenings and then her internal dialogue at the same time her external was happening. It was executed well. It did hurt my brain to read it. So I did struggle with it, but I have not read a book done in that way before. So that was an incredibly novel concept. Next question is a book that I would reread, and that is, once again, This Fatal Kiss, because I didn't get to read a physical copy of it. I read it as an e-arc. So I have a copy of my own. I would like to give that a reread. Probably, I would say I'm probably going to do it like in between Christmas and New Year, you know, when there's not much going on. I've done my wrap up and I'm just fluffing about doing some mood reading. So I might actually give that one a reread to see if I still love it. But then it's also, it's hard to reread a 5-star read because there's this kind of little bit of fear that maybe on a second pass you won't love it as much, and then the 5-star rating will be brought down. But who knows? I've done that before where I've gone and read 5-star reads from my past. Some of them, yeah, were lower. Unfortunately, some of them I loved even more when I read them again, but that one is the one I'm most likely to reread.
Oh my god, guys, I'm full crying. Oh my god, something just happened in this book, and it just, oh my god. I think this is the most I cried for a romance book. Oh, I was not expecting that. Oh. This book is killing me, man. Oh my god, this guy's the best. Oh my god, that mess. Oh my god, I'm not even finished. It's not even finished yet. Oh my god. Yeah, that was good.
Then we have my reading goal reflection of 2024. So in 2024, I'll put a little video here of past Chanel, she's a cutie, saying what her goals would be this year. And I'm going to reflect on those and whether I achieve them. So the first goal past Chanel said was that she wanted to slow her reading down and read less. I fucking failed that so hard. And it's just, yeah, and I know why. It's because, like I said, I'm single and I have chronic health issues and I work from home and I'm a homebody. And I guess 2024 Chanel did go out a bit more. She was probably still not so jaded about the dating game and going on more, well, I know I was going on way more dates and things back then. And I was a year younger, so, you know, more vitality, and this Chanel has just gone, I'm just giving up. I'm just going to stay at home and read books and live vicariously through pages. So yeah, I did not read less. The issue with reading a lot, it's not the reading a lot of books. That doesn't make a difference how many books I read in a year. It's that I am now booktubing, and so I'm filming and editing about the books I read. And if I read a lot, that means I need to film and edit a lot, and it just adds more like sort of work onto my plate. And if it was my job, different story. But it's just, for most of us, this is just a little, it's a hobby. Some of us make some money from it, some of us don't. But like, what am I making? For those curious 2,000 viewers, I make about $2 a video. So it's not a lot, you know. So yeah, that's the only issue I have with the whole read less, is just because I'm now booktubing about that, whereas in the past it didn't matter how many books I read. You know, I didn't talk, as soon as I finished it, go on to the next one, I didn't have to talk about it. But look, would I still like to read less this coming year? Probably, but I read how much I read. You know, I don't really care that much about it anymore. It's like out of my hands. I'll read whatever I read. Another goal I had was to listen to more audiobooks, and that I have done. That is literally something I've only done from starting last year. Before then, I didn't even bother looking at the audiobooks because I don't like to consume stories that way. But I found, oh, Chanel, like if you are sitting there cleaning the bathroom, instead of listening to music, you can listen to an audiobook. Or if you're going for a walk, instead of listening to music, you can listen to an audiobook. So that is something that I have done, because it means that I might get access to books a lot quicker than the physical. Like certain books in my library just, you know, will have either longer waits for audio or shorter waits for audio. So the ones that have the shorter waits, I'm like, well, hey, I can get to this book months quicker than waiting for the other copies to become available. So yeah, that is definitely something I have done this year. I think I've listened to the most audiobooks this year than I have in my entire life. I said I also wanted to read more poetry and litfic. Oh, Sylvie, mummy's legs have lost all. Yep, I know. Can you get off? No, you just, all right. You can stay, even though I cannot feel my legs any longer. I cannot feel them. I have done that. So I'm glad that that's something I stuck to. I have not only read more poetry and litfic, I have branched out, but I'll talk about it in the next question. I also said that I wanted to research books more before reading. Look, I haven't done that, and that's because I don't want to get spoiled by anything. Sometimes I find reading Goodreads blurbs in full and reading people's reviews about them can sometimes spoil some things about some books. That being said, I have done vlogs before where I've just bought books from bookstores and then gone home and been absolutely shocked by the contents of those books and thought to myself, oh, maybe if I'd done a lot more research, I would have known that this contained this specific trigger that I just can't get past, and then I wouldn't have paid money for that. So I think research books more if I'm buying them, not if I'm getting them from the library. So and the goal I set for myself this year was 333 books, and I have blown past that. I don't like the number I set on Goodreads. It doesn't matter. I just picked a random number, and I like to pick a lot lower than I think I'm going to read, so that Goodreads doesn't tell me you're behind. No one wants that. We don't need that kind of negative reinforcement in our lives. The next question is, after this year of reading, what am I prioritizing in 2025? So I'm setting my reading goal to 222, even lower. Like, you know, I want to be told, oh, you're ahead of schedule 3 days into the year. I like the number 222. Or I might even do just 111. Yeah, like it doesn't matter. The biggest thing that I implemented this year was reading outside of my comfort zone. So I really pushed myself to read things that I would never consider reading before, and that is something I do want to continue, because this year, for instance, horror became a genre I really enjoyed, and I have never really read horror before. That being said, I am post-Shroom Chanel, so I can stomach horror now. Pre-Shroom Chanel would not have been able to. So this is only something I can read now because of my improved mental health. But like I said, I also picked up a lot of alternative books. I picked up genres or authors or styles of books that I wouldn't have previously thought to. And look, sometimes, yeah, I haven't enjoyed those books. But for me, it's about keeping an open mind. I don't ever want to be someone who has a very rigid mindset and beliefs and opinions about what I enjoy and what is good. And I don't want to pigeonhole myself as a reader. I think it's important for just increasing your range of perception, observation, thought, opinions, beliefs, everything by sampling those that are not within your own sphere. Like I don't want to live in an echo chamber. I want to be able to understand someone else's point of view, right? And reading helps that. Reading helps put you into the perspective of these characters that might not be like you and see the world through a very different lens. And it just helps being you to be a more empathetic, understanding, informed person. So yeah, I'm going to always continue to push myself out. Like I read Monster Kink erotica this year, like the Christmas ones. I had a fun time, like the Gingerbread Man book and all that. Like it was fun. I giggled and laughed, and it was a pleasant experience. Besides that, what else? I'm dying. I would say I like to go to more book club meetings. So I do have a real life book club here. I think I only attended 3 sessions. The ladies are lovely, but it's just I'm not great at making myself go to things. Like it's not just like social anxiety. It's just a lot of social things are draining energy wise for me. So I have to have the spoons for it. So ideally I would love to go to more and be around other bookish people, health willing. That'll be something I can do this year. So I keep getting distracted by this fringe, which is not what I ordered when I went and sat in the chair. It's going to take a while to grow out, and I've just got to get used to seeing it. The other goal I have for next year is I'm thinking of starting a Patreon. So I have discovered since becoming monetized a few weeks ago that there are a lot of things that I say that YouTube doesn't like. And I've had videos come back saying, yeah, we can't monetize this. Because of the sensitive content. So I don't know, I don't like censoring myself and having to be hyper vigilant because I don't script any of my videos. I just talk off the cuff. And so I'm not great at remembering which words are no-nos, you know. And a lot of the time, like my viewers will be like, yeah, babes, that word you said is a no-no for YouTube. And I'm like, the list is ever growing. So I have considered starting a Patreon and maybe putting videos there, like say for instance, Kinky Corner, where I talk about monster erotica. I can just let it all out, you know. I can not no holds barred, no holding back, just say whatever comes through this mind of mine. And I thought too, maybe it'd be a nice way to connect even more to people and have a closer knit community. I don't know. So I'm playing around with that, what I would post on there, what I would do with that. But that is something I've got like in the works. I'm workshopping it at the moment. Oh, she's finally gotten off. Oh my God. Lord. Oh. Okay. No, I'm so little. If you've watched my channel, you know this is just what you get. So that was my end of year book tag. Hopefully I didn't call it tarot tag at the beginning because I have a tarot channel too, and I do this on there as well. I've got so much cut hair on my face. Yeah, look, this was a great, let's do closing statements. This was a really great year for me. I'm happy with all of the books I read and all of the worlds I experienced and characters I got to know and ideas I got to visit, and perhaps a little bit of an extended vocabulary. I keep hoping that I am assimilating newer words via osmosis, but I feel like I am losing words faster than I am attaining my vernaculars. And like I said, vocab has just dwindled so tiny. I used to have this very extensive library of words that I would just draw upon effortlessly, and these days, like the other week, I couldn't remember what the word for paperclip was. So brain fog is fun. But yeah, I'm happy with everything I read. I utilized my library a lot. I did buy a lot of books. That's probably one thing also I will be changing next year. I'm going to go back, not 100% to library only, but just being a lot more discerning with what I buy. This year was just a thing of me supporting indie bookstores. I just wanted to go and buy books from all these indie bookstores, and that's what I did, and I don't regret it. Okay, there were some books I did regret buying. That's not a lie, because books in Australia start at like $30 and go up to God knows whatever price. So it's not cheap. But yes, going forward, I might buy every now and again. Sometimes I get donations from viewers who say, go and buy yourself a book. So I think that's mostly how I'm going to be buying books for my own personal library. I think a lot to purchasing 5-star books of books I've already read and loved. And that way I can collect a library of all my 5-star reads, which I think would feel really lovely. It'd be like being surrounded by friends. And if you can't get to the library, you can always pull something off the shelf. Like it's like chicken soup. It's instantly nourishing. And I have to mention too, the biggest positive of being on booktube, it's not just being able to talk about books, but it's talking about books with other people. So the community on here has been, for the most part, lovely. Like I do still get some gross comments from mostly men. Yeah, but they're few and far between. Generally, I have met just wonderful human beings, respectful, kind, intelligent, funny, lovely humans. And that has been wonderful. And I know, you know, these connections are online, but they still feel tangible. They still feel real whenever you have an exchange with someone who, like I said, has the same love as you do, which is of books. So that's everything. I think I've rambled on. Do let me know down below what one of your favorite books of this year was, and until next time, stay wild, star child.